At this time, the king was lying in his bed and heard some strange sounds. He looked at his window and found the dragon very close. However, Clay was on the dragon. He told his majesty not to worry. The king told Clay that he had scared him to death. The boy apologized and told his majesty that since Christina loves to fly at night, and the boy will leave them soon enough, he decided to combine business with pleasure and introduce her to the city. The king asked the boy if he was really going to leave Christina in Stormwind. In response to this, the boy said that he and Christina had signed a contract that obliges him to support her. But since the revenues of the province of Borak are quite meager and most of them need to be given to Stormwind, the boy will not be able to feed her in that place. The boy also added that Christina really likes his majesty and she will visit the king from time to time after Clay leaves, so it's better for the king to get used to it quickly. In response to this, the king said that he did not need it. The king said that he had just decided that from now on the province of Borak would be completely financially independent. All income would belong to the boy, so he could take Christina with him and not have to visit the king. Then the boy said that even if it was quite far to the mountains and it would be difficult for Christina to get there every time she was hungry. In response to this, the king said that he would send 200 people with food. The boy bowed and thanked his majesty for his generosity. At parting, the boy said that he wished the king good dreams and said that he was leaving tomorrow, but would look forward to their next meeting. After Christina and the boy flew away, Clay laughed and asked Christina about how she liked his skill. Christina concluded that Clay loves money very much and asked him if he really didn't want to take her treasures away from her. In response to this, the boy said that he did not need money, but he needed freedom. The boy said that he just did not want to be decided and manipulated for him. The boy also added that he had come to the king in order to show him that he was not so easily frightened. In response to this, Christina was surprised to say that people are very complex creatures. After that, he and Christina returned to the estate. She told the boy that if that was all, then she would go to the snow-covered mountain. It is quite close to the province of Borak, so as soon as the boy wants to visit Tina, she will be waiting for him. The boy said goodbye to Tina. He thanked her for everything and said that next time he would definitely bring her a couple of water pills as a gift. After that, Clay decided that he needed to get ready for the journey. He used his spatial ring that had Vela in it. She ate honey, after which she fell fast asleep. The boy woke her up and said that then she climbed into his spatial ring with the words that she had used almost all her strength and she needed to recover. However, now it was clear that Vela had recovered a long time ago and everything was fine with her. In response to this, the girl indignantly said that she had not eaten enough honey yet. Then Clay said that she could eat sweets in this world. He told Vela that he was going to Borak tomorrow, so today he had to have time to prepare everything for departure. That's why the boy needed Vela. At this time, Elijah went outside and saw vehicles made of the skulls of a 9-headed hydra. Clay heard his mom's voice and rubbed his eyes. The boy woke up and wished her good morning. Elijah asked the boy if he had done it all in one night. Clay replied that it was better to go on a long journey with the army, and this was the best thing he could do in such a short time. Then Mom asked the boy about whether his magic was still sealed, because only a magician of at least the 7th rank could do this. In response to this, he said that it was all thanks to Vela, because she shared her wind magic, and now she is sealed in this magic crystal that allows the car to move. And all this cost the boy just a couple of sweets. After that, the mother hugged her son and said that watching all this, she really realized that her son had become an adult. She is incredibly happy, but she can't help but be sad. In response to this, Clay said that he would always be a child for his mother. Elijah said that her son was right and that's why Mom would take 2 units for herself. The boy asked his mother about how it was connected at all. The woman replied that he had said himself that he would always be a child for his mother, and children should always listen to their mother. Clay replied that it was unreasonable, but he couldn't do anything. Then the boy said that his mother had taken 2 skulls and apparently they would have to make several more. Xenia told her brother that a difficult road awaits them. Then the boy turned to Uncle Joe and told him that in order to use this car, a horse was not needed and also asked him about what Xenia was doing here. The boy realized that it was all the work of his mother and then it was not surprising that she took 2 skulls from him. The boy also thought that the title given by the king provides for the possession of 2 horses, while the king was so scared. Clay realized that if he somehow shakes the king's status and his self-confidence again, then most likely the boy will not be able to avoid problems, and now, after his younger sister took the herb of immortality, it is dangerous for her to be in Stormwind. After that, Clay bowed and began to say his oath. He turned to Mom, Dad and Grandpa and said that he had made trouble for them, but he promises that he will justify their hopes and become the strongest in this world. The king turned to the boy's grandfather and said that his grandson was so young but already unusually intelligent. He asked his grandfather about whether they would not go to see him off. There was no point in staying here. In response to this, the grandfather said that he had sent his man along with the boy, so everything should be fine. However, Archbishop Shixing thought that the boy's grandfather was an old fox and he was staying here only because he was worried that he and the king might set a trap for Glue. However, unfortunately for them, he and the king were still one step ahead. He thought that this child would not reach the province of Borak alive. After that, the boy happily announced that he was going and their destination was Borak province. After some time, the army led by Clay was walking through a snowy gorge. Clay was looking into his balloon with his younger sister. Finally, Xenia asked her brother about why he still continues to look into this ball. Did he see something interesting? In response to this, the boy said that they had been pursued since Stormwind, but now this man, for no reason at all, rushed ahead of the curve. In response to this, Uncle Joe said that there really are a lot of bandits and robbers in Kingfeng Gorge, but even if they are trying to bribe them, they still would not dare to attack the Dragon Blood family. However, in response to this, the boy said that they could be sure of it. He also added that winter is coming and their supplies and food are still a tasty morsel. The boy said that if these robbers are after his soul, then he is afraid that there are people who are willing to pay fabulous sums for his head. Then Clay turned to Uncle Joe and said that he needed his help. The boy said that he was going to lure out their pursuer and earn some money. Uncle John agreed. After a little more time, everyone stopped. Uncle Joe said it was getting dark and everyone needed to set up camp and take care of food safety. The subordinate began to carry out the order. However, at this time, someone was watching them. It was a man dressed in the skin of some kind of animal. It turned out to be the leader of a gang called Wolf's Tooth, which was located in the Kingfeng Gorge. There was a black-robed spirit hovering near him. The leader asked this spirit about whether it was a Dragon Blood family. He also said that their name was quite powerful. However, he wasn't sure how strong an army led by some brat could be. In response to this, the black ghost said that the man had received a message and then he should decide for himself what to do. After that, the ghost said goodbye to the man and disappeared. Then the man pulled on the skin and said that it was time to act. After that, it turned out that he had his own gang. They accepted the order of their leader. At first, everyone hid in the bushes, but after that they attacked Clay's camp. The leader shouted that they would kill everyone and take away supplies, because they would not be able to survive this winter. The gang began to attack the knights, but they began to melt. Then the leader realized that it was a trap, and all the knights were made of snow. After that, Clay came down from above and said that he thought he was waiting for a battle with real bandits. But it turned out that it was just a bunch of kids and all his efforts to create puppets were wasted. After that, Clay ordered his army to take the bandits alive. The knights began to carry out the order of young Master Clay. When the gang leader realized that they really had fallen into a trap, but they had not lost yet. All I had to do was grab this kid, and then everyone else would follow his orders. After that, the man attacked the boy, but he repelled his attack. A huge block of snow fell on the man. After that, the boy approached the man who was lying on the ground motionless. Clay ordered him to talk about who sent him and said that if the man didn't answer, the boy would kill him. The man replied that he was the leader of a gang called Wolf's Tooth and was not afraid of Clay, and therefore he would not tell him anything. Then the boy said that in this case he changes this information about the man. The boy's cook cooked a young lamb. He smelled divine and none of the knights had ever seen anything like it. This pot was made by young Mr. Clay. The boy said that their ancestors took him a long time ago and on a cold winter day, and this is exactly what is needed. He also said that if there is not enough, then there is another whole lamb. At that moment, the boy was roasting a lamb on a spit over the fire. The young gentleman was thanked as a knight. At that moment, the gang leader and his henchmen were chained to wooden crosses. They smelled delicious food and also wanted to eat. One of the gang members turned to the boss and said that this guy was simply unbearable. Okay, if he just left them to die from the cold. So they also decided to make fun and eat right in front of them. In response to this, the gang leader said that he did not want to hear anything. After all, if his henchman cannot resist a piece of mutton, then he is not a man, but a child. At that moment, a boy came up to them and said that it was quite cold here, but it was comfortable and warm near the campfire. He also added that it was just cooked, the leg smells so appetizing, and the meat in the pot is very tender and delicious. The boy added that it was incredibly hard for him to look at them, so poor, hungry and freezing. He also said that he has quite a lot of supplies, but he can only share them with his own people, which is a great pity. Then one of the gang members told Clay that he was giving up and asked him to take him in, because he did not want to starve to death. After that, the second gang member said that he was also giving up. Then the gang leader called them traitors and told them to shut up. He told them that if they surrendered, the boy would not leave them alive. In response to this, Clay said that the wise is the one who is observant, and everyone who is ready to give up can go to the hot pot. After that, one of the knights unzipped the kovo and freed 2 gang members. The gang leader called them ungrateful and insulted them in other words. In response, one of the gang members apologized to the boss and said that it smells so appetizing that he can't restrain himself. He also added that if his head dies of cold, they will make him a good grave. After that, the boy approached the boss with meat in his hands. He told him that it was pointless for him to resist, because if he didn't answer his question, his subordinates would tell him, so why wouldn't he take advantage of the situation? The head of the gang grunted discontentedly. After that, he also agreed and began to eat with everyone. Then Uncle Joe yelled at him and told him to stop eating because the young master asked him a specific question about who was behind their attack on the Dragon Blood family. When the man said that under other circumstances he would never have dared to attack the Dragon Blood family. But this year the cold weather came very early, and there were too many hungry people waiting for him in the mountains, and he simply had no choice. The boy asked the man about what kind of hungry people. Then the man said that the noble families of Stormwind live happily ever after and no one cares about ordinary people. He also added that the year turned out to be lean. No one lowered taxes, so people go to the mountains and become bandits. Only the Wolf's Tooth Gang has several thousand people. In some other banks there are even more of them. All people want to eat, and they have a constant shortage of oil and drinking water. And suddenly a man appeared and said that soon there would be some miner from the Dragon's Blood family who had huge food supplies. Uncle Joe got angry when he heard that the man called the young gentleman petty, and therefore pulled out his weapon. However, the men immediately backed away and corrected themselves, calling Clay a young gentleman. The boy turned to Uncle Joe and said that everything was fine, because the man did not want to offend him and asked the knight to leave the man. And then the boy said that based on what the man said earlier, he concluded that there were other gangs. After that, the boy asked the man about why they continue to accept new people. The man replied that he was not like them, because he himself had once been in the place of these poor people and came to the mountains, and therefore he could not leave them in trouble, and unlike these ungrateful idiots, he understands this perfectly. The man also said that when victims of natural disasters arrive in the city, the more submissive are left, and the rest become slaves. The man did not like it, so he was sent to the gorge with the most severe conditions. In response to this, the boy said that, apparently, the man in front is a fair bandit. Clay also said that he was going to clean up the gorge, so that the man would have complete freedom of action in the future. In response to this, the frightened man said that this was impossible, since the rest of the gang already knew that the boy was here and they had already prepared traps and the like. He also added that even if the boy wins, the man will not be able to take control of the gorge, because it is a utopia. In response to this, Clay said that he would help the man get rid of the label of a bandit. He would just need to follow him. The boy would take care of the rest himself. He asked the man what he thought. After that, the boy gave the man the blade. Clay told him that he was a warrior, and therefore he knew what kind of blade it was. The boy said that if he lost, the men would be able to keep the blade for themselves and return to the mountains and continue to engage in bandit activities, and if the boy won, the men would swear eternal loyalty to him. The man said it was a magic sword and a dragon. He asked the boy if he was really going to bet on it and if the man could really keep it for himself. In response to this, the boy said that it was so. Then the man agreed to the deal. At that moment, Uncle Joe came up to the young gentleman. He said that Kingfeng Gorge is practically not criminal, and they have only 3,000 people, so it might be better for them to go around. In response to this, Clay said that he understands his uncle's concern, but they can't do it. The boy said that someone had prepared well and he was sure of it. By this man, the boy meant Archbishop Shisen. Clay said that if they went around, they would rub a lot more. If they are faced with a surprise attack, they will be too exhausted by the long journey and will not be able to fight back, so it is better to act ahead of the curve. The boy also added that the Dragon's Blood family will never run away and will not get scared. The boy also added that in addition, when he said that he was planning to earn some money, he meant that he was planning to take them away from the gang that was chasing them. But now, apparently, the catch will be bigger. Uncle Joe asked the boy what he meant, but in response to this, Clay said that it was a secret. The boy ordered his uncle to prepare several hundred of the most outstanding soldiers and said that they would go out at night. Joe proceeded to execute the order. The man thought that young Mr. Clay is incredibly unpredictable, and this is his charm. He also thought that the boy was the hope for a better future for the Dragon Blood family. After a while, the boy, the gang leader, and Uncle Joe were sitting in a shelter. Through his crystal ball, the boy watched the bandits and said that now they are the most vulnerable, so they will not find the best opportunity to attack. The boy asked Uncle Joe if everything was ready. The man replied that according to the young master's plan, the soldiers took up their positions at the entrance to the gorge. They must set fire to the bandits' lair and then they will come right into his hands. The boy told the army to prepare as not to make a single unnecessary sound and not to shine. The head of the gang said that he warns in advance that he is responsible only for the road, and if something goes wrong, he will immediately dump. They didn't know that a man in a black robe was watching them at this moment. This man laughed and said that it was really not so easy with the boy, because he not only did not go around, but also decided to attack. The man also said that you really can't count on these stupid bandits, because if he wasn't on their side, then this little boy would have already finished them off. They didn't even notice. At this time, the man sent him some bright signal that woke up the bandits. They heard a sound and realized that someone was attacking them. Clay also saw this signal in the sky and realized that someone had found out his plan. Then the boy said that we need to hurry up and ignore the source of the signal. He also added that they need to occupy the area before the bandits react. At this time, Bella told the boy that maybe they should leave, but Clay replied that if someone wanted to do it, he would personally deal with him. The bandits ran to meet the boy's army and wanted to kill them, because if they kill the troops from the Dragon's Blood family, they will become heroes of the gorge. One of the bandits said that whoever takes his head off the boy's shoulders will receive a generous reward. Clay was standing back to back with Uncle Joe at the time. The uncle asked the boy if he was sure that they should go on the defensive, because now that they have already been discovered, it's better for them to get out of here. In response to this, the boy told him to relax and added that he had some thoughts on this. He told Joe that he had a plan, but he couldn't do without his help. The boy added that all the bandits were already in place and asked his uncle to detain them here before the boy returned. At this time, the head of the gang intervened in the conversation and said that it was absolutely impossible, because several hundred people would try to restrain about 20,000 bandits. It's like sending everyone to certain death. Then the boy asked Uncle Joe if he believed in him. In response to this, the man smiled and said that he had never heard such a murderous tactic, so he did not even know what the boy was going to do and it was madness. But this is what makes his blood boil. The man ordered his knight to go on the attack and show the bandit what the true strength of the Dragon Blood family means. The knights shouted for the prosperity of the Dragon's Blood family and went on the attack. The boy thanked Uncle Joe very much and said that they only needed to detain the bandits for a while, and he would be back soon. The boy grabbed the gang leader by the arm and ran somewhere. The man asked the boy if he had left his knights there in order to escape himself. In response to this, the angry boy ordered the man to show the way until he left him. This was observed by the same man in a robe who gave the signal to the bandits. He thought that the boy wanted to suddenly attack alone. However, the man decided to take advantage of this opportunity and deal with the boy himself. At that moment, Bella told Clay that they were being followed. She also said that this person who is a 7th rank magician and the boy will not be able to cope with him. The girl asked him if he needed to borrow his strength. In response to this, the boy said that they have to use her magic later, so they don't need to give it now. Moreover, the boy has already taken some precautions and therefore should not worry. The boy thought that under the circumstances, the bandits would concentrate on fighting the main forces, and only the one who wanted to kill the boy would follow him. This man revealed their location and the idea to the bandits. At that moment, the boy pulled out a vial of poison. A man in a robe crept up to the boy from behind, but he turned around in time and managed to pour poison on the man's face. The man bent down and started touching his face. The boy said that it was the poison of the 9-headed Hydra and therefore, it is better for the man not to even try to use magic. Otherwise he will die in even greater agony. Then the man ran up to the boy and grabbed him by the neck. He lifted Clay off the ground and started yelling at him. He called him a stupid child and said that the boy was wrong to think that the Hydra poison would be able to stop him. However, the man felt some kind of pain on his hands. He saw the skin and muscles on his arms melting. From the pain and horror of the man, he screamed and asked the boy about what he had done. In response to this, Clay said that the Hydras use poison for protection, but also to dissolve the opponent's magic attack. The man was poisoned, but still decided to use magic, and that's what came of it. As a result, the man completely left in the poison. The frightened head of the gang ran up to young Mr. Clay. He was delighted that the boy was able to destroy an opponent of the 7th rank with just one gift of poison. In response, the boy said that if he showed pity, he would be the next one to die. However, Clay regretted that he had not been able to extract any useful information from the man. After that, the boy urgently ran on and said the head of the gang that they need to hurry up, because if the bandits understand what's the matter, then send people here, and it will be difficult for them to find them. In response to this, the man asked the boy about who he was going to look for, but he did not answer anything. After a while, the boy and the head of the gang hid behind a rock and watched the lair. Vela, who was still sitting on the boy's head at that time, was surprised that the bandits live in this place. She wondered why no one was guarding their lair. In response to this, the boy said that it was all because they had no brains. All the bandits went into battle and didn't even bother to think about it, and this plays into the hands of the boy. The head of the gang thought that he felt humiliated, but did not show it. Suddenly, one of the bandits who was sleeping in the den suddenly woke up. He heard some noise and couldn't figure out who was nearby. However, these were the poisonous vines that Clay had created. They enveloped the bandits and squeezed them. After walking a little more, the man heard some frightening, incomprehensible sounds. It was a place of detention. People were screaming because they were asking for help. Vela flew up to one of the boxes and told Clay that there were a lot of people in this place. Then the boy turned to Sam and said that they needed to split up and get the people out of the box. The man realized that the boy had been talking about them all this time and that he had come for the refugees in the first place. The boy opened the door of the box and told people not to worry. He introduced himself as Clay Longsu and said that the prisoners were now free. Someone from the people who were in the box recognized Clay and remembered that he was from the Dragon's Blood family. An old man who was among the prisoners approached the boy and thanked him, but he said that even if they were free, they had nowhere to go. The man also added that natural disasters and ever-increasing taxes are incredibly hard, so it's probably better for them all to stay here and wait until they are sold, because when they have at least some tiny chance to survive. In response, the boy said that he knew that the prisoners had suffered for their lives. Clay invited the prisoners to go with him to his lands. Grandfather was surprised that the boy has his own lands. In response, Clay loudly shouted that he was not only a member of the Dragon's Blood family, but also the proclaimed king ruler of Borak province. The boy said that in his patrimony he would free all prisoners from taxes and show them what a good life is. The prisoners were delighted and said that if everything the boy said was true, then they wanted to follow him. Clay said that the Dragon's Blood family keeps its word, but the only thing is that now the boy is being monitored, so people will have to get to his patrimony on their own. The boy pointed to the barn and told the ex-prisoners to take the supplies and food of the bandits, because this should be enough to get there safely. People rather ran to the barn and were very grateful to the boy. They also said that they would follow him to the ends of the earth. Sam approached the young gentleman and asked him about what he was doing. The man reminded the boy that he wanted to earn extra money, so why did he give everything to them? Then the boy told the man that it seemed to him that it was a great chance to enrich himself. Clay said that Borak province has vast lands and rich reserves of resources, but there is not enough labor, so people are the main wealth. The boy continued talking and said that if all the people he had saved worked faithfully on his land, it would be enough for Borak to become the most prosperous province on the continent in a fairly short period of time. After that, Clay said that he was going back to Uncle Joe, and the man should follow the people. The boy also told him that if someone gets in their way, then he can just use it, and handed him another bottle of liquid. The boy, running away, said goodbye to the man and said that he was counting on him. The man thought that although the boy is a little demon, but he has a pretty powerful aura. He is brave, smart, and calculating. The man also thought that Clay is a natural ruler, and he, is not ashamed of having given in to him. At this time, the knights were at war with bandits. At some point, one of the knights told Uncle Joe that they could no longer fight and asked him when young Master Clay would return. In response to this, Joe asked the man about what answer he hoped for and said that they just had to keep the bandits. Joe called on the entire army for the Dragon's Blood family to cross their blades. At that moment, Clay blew into the rock. The sound of this was heard by the boys' army and they were glad that young Mr. Clay had returned. At that moment, a certain magic circle appeared on the ground where the boys' army was standing. Thanks to him, the wounds of the warriors were healed. Uncle Joe realized that this was a rank 9 spell called Praising the Light. The uncle was surprised, as he knew that the young master's powers should still be sealed, and he did not understand how then the boy could use magic of such a rank. This defied any explanation of the man, and therefore frightened him and worried him. The boy continued to blow the horn, and Velar radiated magical streams. Uncle Joe shouted to his army not to let young Mr. Clay's efforts go to waste, and they should take these bandits. He ordered the knights to fight and they went on the attack. The bandits do not understand what is happening, and why the knights look as if all the screens have tightened at once and are set to fight even more than from the very beginning. Clay kept blowing the horn, Bella was worried and told the boy that his body could not withstand such a powerful flow and magic. A little more and his body would begin to collapse. The boy told her that he had a powerful restoring pill of the elf clan, so he would continue, because the praise of light cannot be stopped at such a moment. The man remembered about his past life. Back then, in the mortal realm, he was alone and did not fear death. Clay realized that he could not retreat now when so many people were fighting around him. The boy took the pill, despite the fact that his body had already begun to collapse. Clay said that he had not felt such enthusiasm for a long time, and it turned out that it was much more interesting to drive a team to victory than to fight alone. An hour later, the knights defeated the last bandit. One of Uncle Joe's subordinates said that all the bandits were defeated thanks to the powerful magic of Mr. Clay, and their country did not suffer any losses. Joe said it was great and now he's going to report it to Mr. Clay. The man ran to the boy as soon as possible and said that lunch was behind them. He also added that everything went according to his plan and was just incredible. However, the man discovered that something was wrong with the boy. When he ran up to him, the young master fell to the ground. The boy said that this weak body and this stupid seal had greatly weakened him. He said that a little more and he would have just died. The boy said that he was very tired and could no longer control his body. However, he had not yet finished what he wanted to do. Clay didn't know what to do. At that time, Xenia and Pippi were sitting in the camp in Confen Gorge. They were bored and waiting for Clay to come back, because they don't even know how things are there. At this time, Uncle Joe appeared. He was carrying the boy's body in his arms and shouted to Miss Xenia that something had happened and asked her to run up to him as soon as possible. The girl was scared and asked her uncle about what happened to the boy. In response, Joe said that they were ambushed and Master Clay used too much magic. The uncle was in agony and shouted that it would be better if he died instead of the young master, because he believed that it was all his fault. Pippi yelled at the man and told him to stop crying, because the boy was just sleeping. He asked the man if he couldn't tell the difference between sleeping and dead. Then Joe asked about how much longer the boy would sleep. In response to this, Pippi said that the young master's body was exhausted due to the fact that he had overdone using magic, and it was difficult to say when he would wake up, but the bear could try to do something. Pippi collected a terrible smell from his mouth and directed it at the boy's face. Clay smelled it and immediately woke up. Xenia and Uncle Joe were very glad that the young gentleman had woken up. The boy turned to Uncle Joe and said that he had an errand for him. In response to this, the man said that he would do everything that depends on him. After some time, the army of robbers decided to attack Clay's army. The leader of the robbers said that they were lucky to survive in a skirmish with 20,000 mountain robbers, but next time luck would not be on their side. They didn't suffer any losses, only Clay was wounded, and they didn't even have a single wizard in their squad. The robbers ran to the dragon's blood army and said they would kill them all, leaving no one alive. Then I whistled Uncle Joe and snow fell from the mountains on the robbers and logs began to fall. Sam's gang did it. The man said that Mr. Clay was right, because someone really chased them and now they will be covered with snow. The leader of the robbers said that such an attack would not stop them and they would not have time to escape. However, at that moment Xenia appeared and said that her brother had planned this in order to block the passage into the gorge for their own convenience to move forward unhindered, and they just got caught. The brother also said that if one of the robbers survives, they should inform the Shixing family that they are next in line. The road for the robbers was blocked on both sides and as a result they were all covered with snow. At that moment, Xenia asked Uncle Joe if she was cool, because she wanted her brother to see her in action. In response to this, the man said that it was incredible, and the Shixing family, even in their worst dreams, could not imagine that they had such a powerful magician in their team. In response to this, the girl said that her brother is even cooler, because he can predict the future and will defeat this Shixin even in a dream. In response, Uncle Joe said that the girl was right, because Clay not only saved all of them and eliminated the threat, but also blocked the road to the gorge, the only one leading to the province of Borak. No matter how many squads Shixing sends, I will be able to keep up with them. Some time later, Clay's army was on the approach to the province of Borak. Sam said that the border of Borak province is directly ahead. He asked Uncle Joe if young Mr. Clay was awake or still. The man replied that the boy had used too much magic and was therefore exhausted. At this time, the boy was sleeping. He had a dream about how he fought with Shixin. A sister tried to calm her brother down and told him that he was having some strange dreams again because of which he was using magicians unnecessarily. Suddenly, a fiery ray appeared from the ground. Uncle Joe and Sam couldn't figure out what was going on. The uncle said that they were attacked and ordered the whole army to get ready, because now they will find out who dared to do such an act. They saw in front of them an army leader who was laughing because he thought that they were really lucky since they met a whole caravan at a time when they so needed to replenish their supplies. The man said that his name is Peru and he is the owner of this mountain, so if they do not want to die, they must give up all their supplies. The man was sitting on a berserk animal, which is a magical beast of the 6th rank. In response to this, Uncle Joe said that the man should watch his words, since he dares to say that he is the owner of these lands. The man said that if he needed about the dishes so much, he should fight with him first. Both speaking began to attack each other. Peru said he wasn't really interested in fighting the old men, but Uncle Joe looks pretty strong. The man got angry at being called an old man and started attacking the feast with renewed vigor. The man realized that the techniques of the feast were familiar to him and he had a feeling that he had already met him before. But to begin with, he decided to capture him first, and why already find out. The man on him with a strong blow feast. Subordinates asked the gang leader about whether he was okay or not. In response to this, the man said that it didn't matter and his subordinates just needed to grab supplies, leave the wit to him. The men ran to attack for their clan. In response, Sam asked them who they thought they were. It started by itself. At this moment, the head of the gang increased in size. He told Uncle Joe that it had been a long time since anyone had forced him to fight at full strength. The man realized that Berserk was angry. After that, he attacked Joe. The gang members said that now the whole army is over because no one can defeat their boss when he is in such a state. The knights could not understand where the Berserker came from in such a wilderness, but in any case, they swore to protect young Master Clay. At this time, Xenia was crying. She told her brother that they were going to lose and begged him to wake up soon, because she was very scared. Then Clay took his sister by the hand and asked her about who dared to bring his sweet sister to tears. The girl was glad that her brother had woken up. Peru said that although it takes a long time to recover from the madness, but this amount of supplies is definitely worth it. At that moment Clay appeared. He turned to the gang leader calling him an old man and asked him if he was afraid of drying up. He also told him that the feast should be more careful in rainy weather. Clay decided to cool the Berserker and directed a large block of water at him. The Berserker could not understand where this boy came from and thought that some kind of water magic would not be able to stop him. However, suddenly the man realized that this is not just water, it also absorbs his power. Clay said that these are water spirits from the elf clan and they feed on rage. The boy took a couple in order to strengthen his scrolls, and just then a Berserker came to hand. The man started screaming, but in response Clay told him to relax because they wouldn't kill him. However, this is quite enough to detain the Berserker. After that, the boy created his vines and they captured all the bandits. However, Clay noticed that Uncle Joe was ill. Then the boy ordered the army of the Dragon's Blood family to break through the encirclement and head to Borak province. After a while, the Dragon Blood family army won and headed further towards the province while the gang members were trying to free their boss. The bandits realized that now they have nothing to do because they are in such a wilderness and it will be very difficult for them without supplies. In response to this, the Berserker said that they would still have the opportunity to take their own, and they were fighting with the army in Borak. The man thought that if he had not misheard who that boy said something about the Dragon's Blood family. Then the Berserker realized that this was not just a caravan. The Berserker thought that it was extremely unlikely that they were really from the Dragon Blood family. However, if so, they could be in great danger as soon as they entered the city, so the men decided to send someone to find out about everything. At that moment, someone approached the gentleman in the city and said that the new owner of the lands of Borat's province, Ram Clay Longsu, had already arrived. The man asked his master if we should meet him. The man turned around and said that since he was not killed on the way here, then of course they should welcome their new master. This man turned out to be the state tax inspector of Borak province. Clay poured the contents of a bottle into Uncle Joe's mouth. After that, he asked his sister to distribute these bottles to all the soldiers. Xenia fulfilled her brother's request. After Kale gave Joe a drink of medicine, and recovery began and he woke up. The man jumped up abruptly and saw a young gentleman next to him. He asked the boy about when he woke up and said that he had fought a Berserker after all. In response to this, Sam started shouting and said that Joe asked a great question, because if it wasn't for the young Mr. Clay who woke up in time, then they would all be in a mess. In response, Joe said that it was not his fault, because he simply could not fulfill his duty. Then the boy said that their opponent was the son of a sword master and even paired with a magical beast of the 6th rank. Take it off was really hard to deal with. Before leaving, Grandpa told Clay about his old nemesis, a sword master named Carlo, who might be in Borak province. And even if the boy did not see Carlo himself, but he saw the style of battle of that berserker and therefore can draw certain conclusions. In response to this, Uncle Joe said that the young gentleman was right. This robber was definitely his descendant. The man said that a few years ago, on behalf of the church, Archbishop Shisen recognized Carlos and his family as heretics, followed by a decree on their expulsion. The archbishop told them that they were dirty blasphemers and he was taking away from them the opportunity and the right to be called knights, and they would never enter this land. By the time General Reno returned, they had already left Stormwind, and until recently there had been no news from them. However, the men did not understand why the descendants of Carlos decided to become bandits, because they are berserkers. Even if they were kicked out of the city, why don't they seek refuge with elves or dwarves? In response to this, Sam said that he agreed with Joe, because they could just go and ask. However, Clay said that until they figure out the situation, they can't act rashly, since this can have a negative impact on the Carlo family, which probably has reasons for such behavior, and since there are Shisen replacements here, then everything can't be that simple. The boy was sure that there were many people of the Shixing family in this place, but first he had to deal with internal problems. When Clay entered his province, he was joyfully greeted with flowers and posters. The boy was surprised, because it was supposed to be a backward mountain area, but for some reason everything looked completely different from what they were told. The boy's younger sister was glad that there were so many people here and much more lively than in Stormwind. The tax inspector greeted Mr. Clay and said that they had been waiting for him for a long time and were incredibly glad to see him. After that, the man apologized and said that he should address him as Baron Longsu. The man said that his name was Kaladu and he was a tax inspector of Borak province. The man asked the boy to let him take him to the residence. Clay happily agreed. The tax inspector said that they had prepared the mansion specifically in order to provide the boy with a comfortable stay on his land. In response to this, Clay said that after all the rumors about the province of Borak, he could not have thought that something so magnificent and majestic could expect them. In response, the tax inspector said that the boy could enjoy life here, because this mansion hides a lot of surprises, some of which may seem very exotic. After that, the man whispered in the boy's ear that he was sure that the boy would not even want to leave there. Clay laughed and said that if a man is not lying, then in that case he is impatient to see and try it all. Sam smelled a delicious aroma and thought it was coming from the fountain. The man ran up to him and started drinking water from him. To the man's surprise, it turned out to be a wine that was incredibly delicious and simply divine. At that moment, a beautiful mermaid girl appeared from the fountain and said that she could offer more drinks if the man did not like it. The girl hugged him and said that she would follow any instructions of the man and fulfill all his desires. For a second, Sam thought he was in heaven. At that moment, several girls arrived. The tax inspector said that this is the most beautiful girl from the Feathered clan. He turned to Mr. Clay and said that everything here, including these girls, belongs to him and he has the right to dispose of everything as he wishes. The boy thought that this could be interpreted in different ways. Clay decided that if he could manage everything here, it could mean that he could not do anything outside of this residence. At that moment, one of the girls from the Feathered clan approached Clay and asked him to taste the liquid she was holding in her hands in a vessel. The boy thought that apparently the tax inspector was just trying to lure him into a golden cage and it all looked pretty well oiled. It is likely that all the previous owners were led to this. Suddenly, the boy saw some runes on the girl's chest but could not understand what they looked like. The girl was embarrassed by the fact that the gentleman was looking at her breasts too intently, and the boy shifted his gaze. The girl moved away from the gentleman and screamed. Suddenly, the boy began to say that everything was wrong and the girl misunderstood him. The tax inspector thought that there was so much excitement around the new ruler from the Dragon Blood family. But it turned out that he was just a boy who had never even had a relationship with women. The man also thought that the boy was even better than all the previous Lords of Idiots, and that he would be explained and captivated by this golden cage that he had created. The boy said that he urgently needed to rest and ran to his chambers. The tax inspector decided that the gentleman did not like the wine. In response, the boy said that he preferred juice and chocolate. Clay also added that the road was so tired and he needed to rest because Mom always said that good boys should go to bed early. The tax inspector wished Mr. Sweet dreams. After that, he turned to the girl and said that he still had milk on his lips, but apparently he liked the girl. The tax inspector called her by the name of Maya Olai and said that she was truly the pearl of the Feathered clan. The inspector said that the girls do not need to understand anything, but just need to understand who is the real boss here and look after the boy for him. The girl obediently agreed, as she had no choice. At that moment, the boy entered the house and exhaled with relief, as he finally managed to get away from this nasty Kaladu. And now he could finally get down to business. The boy released his bird to Leda and told her to try for him, because he really needs to know how things are going here. The boy began to look at his crystal ball and realized that this whole mansion and the luxury surrounding it were created only to distract his eyes. But in fact, things were much worse than the boy could have imagined. Clay was sure that there was not enough without Kaladu and he needed to think carefully about how to deal with him. Looking into the ball, Clay saw a berserker in the city. The boy thought that their old acquaintance was acting recklessly as always. Clay ordered Leda to inform Joe about this, because she couldn't let Khaled discover their guest. At that moment, the door handle twitched and the boy asked about who came. The door opened and it turned out to be the same girl. She approached the boy and said that her name was Mighty and she had come to satisfy all his needs. She also added that the tax inspector said that it might be difficult for the boy to fall asleep himself because he misses his family very much. So the girl volunteered to help him. The girl picked up a book and asked Clay about what kind of story he would like to listen to at night. The boy was embarrassed and surprised that the girl came to read him bedtime stories. However, the boy did not lose his head and told her to read a fairy tale about Snow White. The boy realized that the tax inspector would never have sent the girl on such an errand. In order to protect herself, the girl intended to misinterpret his non-ambiguous instruction. Clay thought that the girl was pretty smart and would not be able to cooperate. The boy asked the girl about the rune that he had seen in the afternoon. Clay said he thought it was a slave's brand. The girl was surprised that the boy knew about it. She also said that they all have a similar aptly and she demonstrates that their lives and soul do not belong to themselves. Mighty also added that they come from other clans and can only be slaves here, they have no rights and they cannot leave. In response, the boy asked her why they did not resist. But the girl replied that it was useless. She said that these runes are of ecclesiastical origin and even the strongest wars are not able to resist her action. The boy thought that in this case it is not surprising why the 6 of you were in such a state, because from the very beginning they were limited by the slave brand. Clay noticed that this time Shisen surpassed himself and the province of Borak is a real prison. The boy told Mayo to leave it to him. After that, Clay started doing some magical things. The girl asked him in fright about what he was doing. In response to this, the boy said that even though the runes that the church had imposed were really strong, but as the owner of these lands, he had the right to remove them. Clay said Mighty was free now. He also added that he would release not only her, but everyone else. The girl was shocked by what she heard and asked the young gentleman if he was serious. She asked the boy if he really gives everyone freedom. Then the girl said that on behalf of everyone like her, she wants to say a huge thank you to the boy. After that, the girl kissed him on the cheek. However, at that moment Uncle Joe flew into the room with the berserker and began to shout that he had grabbed him and Kaladu did not have time to spot him. The man decided that he seemed to be at the wrong time, as he saw a boy on the same bed next to a girl. At this time, the berserker said that he thought Clay was a good person since he came from the dragon blood family, but it turned out that he was an ordinary hooligan. Mayo was very angry at what she heard and attacked the berserker, saying that no one dares to call the young master that, otherwise she would kill him. Uncle Joe came up to the boy and said that this girl with wings was pretty strong and he was worried. However, in response to this, Clay said that his uncle should not worry because the girl would not offend them. The boy called the berserker to him so that they could talk. Clay said that what happened here before was terrible, because the tax inspector relied on the support of the church and Archbishop Shixing in particular in order to make a fortune here. But the boy is not going to leave everything as it is. Clay's inauguration ceremony is due to take place tomorrow and he has a plan. The boy expressed his hopes that the berserker would agree to cooperate with him. Mayo happily replied that their clan was ready for anything for the sake of the young master, and the berserker said that they would trust the boy this time. But if he dared to set them up, he would be a lesson for all berserkers. The man thought that Clay wants to remove these Arabic marks and maybe he really is different from the past owners of these lands. The next day, a tax inspector came to the young gentleman's mansion. He asked Clay about how he had slept last night and expressed his hopes that Mighty had performed her duties well. The boy yawned and left the room and said that if it wasn't for the inauguration ceremony, he would still sleep or wander around his possessions. In response to this, Kaladu laughed and said that it was true. He also added that the boy will not have much time for games and sleep when he becomes the lord of these lands, but he has a suggestion on how to lighten his burden. The man said that if the boy would give him the authority and allow him to govern the province of Borak instead of him, then he would be able to live happily as he had done before, and the tax inspector would take care of all matters. The boy was delighted and told the man that this was a great idea, and he would transfer all powers to him as soon as he took office. Kalatu bowed and thanked the young master. The man thought that a child is a child and it was too easy. However, he didn't even realize that Clay had his own plan. Suddenly the boy spoke up and said that, in addition to everything else, all the authorized representatives of the tax inspector should be present at the ceremony, because the boy should know them. Otherwise, if his mother starts asking questions that the boy cannot answer, she will get very angry. The man laughed and said that he would do it and the boy would not worry about anything. After the inauguration ceremony, the tax inspector brought the documents to the boy. The man told the young gentleman that it was enough for him to simply put a seal on this document and he would be able to go play, and the magic of the seal would do everything by itself. In response to this, Clay said that it was quite convenient and asked the man if he had also fooled past gentlemen. After that, the boy took out a new document. The tax inspector indignantly asked him what it was. The boy replied that it was a document of liberation from slavery, and also regarding all of them, they will be banished from this place once and for all. The tax inspector was furious. At this time, the boy was putting a seal on his document. He said that Archbishop Shixin and his faithful dogs from now on will not be able to send in this territory. With these words, the boy put a seal on his document. He also said that he, Clay Longsu, would create a new world here. In response, the men got angry and called the boy a brat. He also added that even if the boy is from the dragon blood family, he thinks in vain that he is allowed to do everything, especially to go against him and against Archbishop Shixing himself. In response to this, Clay said that he would still try. After that, the boy ordered Uncle Joe to tie them all up and send them to Stormwind, and kill those who would resist on the spot. The man proceeded to execute the order. The tax inspector shouted that he was not to blame and the boy in vain thinks that he will be able to govern the province of Borak, because his army will come to these lands. The Berserkers and the Feathered Clan appeared on the square at this time. They were glad that the marks really disappeared and the boy wasn't lying. Lai told her plan that they would fight for Borak and for Mr. Clay. The boy said that if the army comes for Kalat, then first they will need to fight with the Berserkers and the Feathered Clan, and he does not think that knights are capable of such a thing. The tax inspector could not understand when the boy managed to pull it all off, because he was constantly under his supervision. In response to this, Clay said that a man does not need to know the answer to this question. He just needs to know that a new era will begin very soon in the province of Borak. The boy addressed the people and said that the refugees he had rescued from the gorge were about to arrive, and it would be a fresh breath of air for Borats. The boy said that he was going to make this place rich and prosperous. On the border with the Elven Forest, the Berserker Peru was knocking on the door. He asked to open the gates to him and tell him that the new lord of the province of Borak has arrived. On the other side of the gate, the man said that the heir had returned and told his subordinates to go and report it to the boss. The gate opened. Peru looked at the boy and said that it was too late to give a back one. His father had always disliked people from Stormwind. The boy said that he was here to negotiate cooperation, and the Berserker should stop scaring him, because he was not afraid. Clay also added that if he really wants to make Borak strong and prosperous, then he, as the owner of these lands, is obliged to meet with the master of the sword. Moreover, Clay also added that he had already dealt with Kalatu and slave marks, so as they say, forge iron while it's hot. The boy looked at the Berserker and said that it seemed to him that he was more nervous than him. In response to this, the man got angry and said that this was nonsense. It was just that his father hates people from Stormwind, and here he would personally lead him directly to him, and earn beatings not far away. The man asked the boy if he really perceives the beatings of the Berserker Sword Master as a joke. The boy thought that, as expected, grandfather's sworn friend is as hot as he is. They are even merciless to their own sons. As soon as the boy and the Berserker entered the room, all insults flew at the man. He was called a brat and asked about who asked him to drag a man from Stormwind here. Despite the fact that the boy has removed the slave marks, they are still not bosom friends. In response, the man asked the one who insulted him to think about it a little. Peru said that Clay is not like all the other lords, because he is from the family and the blood of the dragon. The Holy Sword of Wrath Kalo asked his son about how this distinguishes the boy from others, because they all still remain watchdogs of Stormwind. The man asked his son if he really thinks that his father recognizes the boy just because his surname is Longsu. The boy approached grandfather Carlo and spoke. He introduced himself by name and said that his grandfather had not seen him for a long time, but he misses him very much and often remembers him. The boy also added that he is not there. He always said that Carlo is the strongest of the holy swords, and today Clay will be able to see for himself. In response to this, Grandpa laughed and said that the boy had a good tongue, unlike the rude old man Reno. The man called the boy closer to him and told him to come over if he had something to say. Haru got angry because his father had just said that he would not accept just anyone, and after just a couple of compliments, he already agreed to everything. Clay sat down next to grandfather Carlo and said that he was more majestic than the boy could have imagined. He turned to the man and asked him if he could discuss something with him. In response to this, the old man laughed and told the boy to tell him soon. Clay said that first of all, this winter turned out to be extremely harsh. Haru told the boy that they didn't have enough supplies, so the boy brought some food and money. Secondly, Clay said that he wanted to introduce a cooperative management system in Borak. Therefore, the boy expressed his hopes that the old man would become the head of the Berserker clan in Borak. Carlo was surprised when he heard the boy's words, but immediately cheered up. He asked Clay if he had really brought some food and money and wanted them, who had regained their freedom, to take part in the management of Borak. The old man asked the boy if he was afraid that they might betray him. In response to this, Clay said that collective interclass management implies the containment of one clan by the rest, so everything will depend on common interests. The boy also added that his grandfather had told him that the Berserkers had gained fame as incredibly loyal and wise creatures under the guidance of the old man. The boy asked Carlo about how he managed it. The man laughed and replied that old Renault had an incredibly talented grandson. The boy continued talking and said that he would also like to hire Berserkers in his own army, and the salary would be from him. But the old man could also ask for an additional fee. Carlo agreed with the boy without question. After that, Clay jumped off the throne and told the old man that he would first sort out the supplies and then return to him. In response to this, grandfather Carlo replied that he would wait for the boy. Haru and Clay were returning to the gate, and the man told the boy that fortunately, his father liked him. However, as he understood, Clay wanted to talk about cooperation. But so far from everything he said, it seems to Haru that only they benefit. In response to this, Clay only smiled slyly and said that the negotiations on cooperation were successful. Clay thought to himself that the strongest warriors that Stormwind refused were now part of Clay Longsu's personal army. The boy also thought that no matter how much he invested, it was only a drop in the ocean compared to what he would receive. The boy's goal was the unexplored treasures of the Elven Forest. At this time, in this very forest, 2 berserkers caught 2 beasts of the 7th rank. It was a 3-headed filth catcher and an earth python. Haru told the boy that before, just taming a beast of this level would have cost them several people, not to mention catching them alive. This trap is really good, and thanks to it, this time it turned out to be an excellent catch. Haru told the boy to stop worrying about this picture in his hands and look at the loot. It turns out that the boy was holding a map of the Elven Forest in his hands, which he drew himself. Let the Elven Forest belong to the province of Borak. However, a full-fledged map simply does not exist, because these territories are too dangerous. Now they were exploring unexplored territories in order to improve the map. After 6 months of active research, Clay came to the conclusion that these 2 are not the largest animals in this forest. Haru was surprised that 2 monsters of the 7th rank are not the best prey, and there is someone else. The boy said he meant the mines. There should be mineral deposits near the lair of these monsters. At that moment, the boy came up to some place and said that if he didn't feel it, then the deposits were right here. The boy used his magic to drill the ground. Beneath it was a shaft of ice stone. Haru was shocked by what he saw. Clay replied that, as always, berserkers can take 1/3 of everything. Haru was surprised again by Clay's words, because it was he who discovered her, and he, as the main one, would quite like not to share with them. In response to this, Clay said that he would not have been able to explore these territories without the help of berserkers, and they deserved it. At that moment, Clay got a call from his mom. He asked her about what happened, because she decided to dial him at least once, not at night. Haru, who was watching all this, noticed that this sound transmitter is used only by the strongest alchemists, but this is the first time he sees fine jewelry work. The man did not believe that Clay had made it himself. Elijah told his son that she had urgent news. The boy's aunt's birthday is next month, so Clay can return to Stormwind to visit the family and celebrate with them. Also, the boy's mother added that everything is already coordinated in the Queen. In response to this, Clay said that it was his aunt's birthday, so of course he would come back. However, Clay was concerned about the issue related to Archbishop Shixon. He always disliked the boy and tried to kill him in every possible way. Did he really not try to prevent this time in any way? In response to this, Elijah said that it was really a little strange, but they didn't care about it, they just wanted to see their son again. Clay smiled and said that this was also true and he couldn't wait to get back as soon as possible. Clay turned to his subjects and said that they had a long and harsh road ahead of them, so everyone should take care of supplies and not forget about the two monsters. At that moment, Bella appeared and asked the boy about why he didn't just put everything he needed into the spatial ring and use the portal. In response to this, the boy said that the girl is the princess of the elemental elves and is subject to all the elements, so it is not a problem for her to use the spatial ring. But if other creatures are placed inside it, then they will only be able to get out of there dead. Vela didn't know about it. At that moment, Myo Lai appeared. She turned to Mr. Clay and said that they had heard that the boy was returning to Stormwind on the occasion of his birthday, so they had prepared something. The girl handed the boy a box and said that it was a gift from all the clans. The boy said that he had already prepared a gift on behalf of the entire province of Borak, and there was no need to worry so much. In response to this, the girl said that the young gentleman had freed them all from taxes and hardships, and would also allow them to live a full life, so he simply had to accept this gift. After that, more members of other clans came up and said that Mr. Clay would accept a gift from all of them. The berserkers said they would serve Clay forever faithfully, and wished him to return as soon as possible. The boy was delighted and said that in this case he would accept the gift and thanked everyone. At that moment, Uncle Joe came up to the boy and said that there were some problems with the three-headed dog, which they had to leave in Stormgrad. The boy thought that someone had interfered with it. However, it turned out that everything was not at all as he might have thought. This monster just happened to be female and gave birth to a child. The boy was horrified by this news. In Stormwind, a festive banquet was in full swing on the occasion of the Queen's birthday. Elijah approached Her Majesty and congratulated her on the holiday. The girl said that only she had come so far, but Dar and his father would come a little later. In response to this, the Queen said that she was very glad that the girl had come and the rest was not so important. However, the Queen asked the woman about where her baby Clay was, because she said that he should return. At that moment, the princess of the Shixing family laughed and said that he probably decided not to return in order not to be disgraced, because the owner of such lands, which the province of Borak has, probably will not even be able to afford to present a decent gift. In this case, he can't even attend such a holiday. The girl turned to Her Majesty and told her not to entertain these thoughts, because Clay would not come. After that, the princess said that she would like to make a toast now, so she would take her leave. Elijah was angry and could not understand how a simple concubine dared to say such things. However, the queen immediately reassured the girl. Elijah turned to her sister and asked her how she could bear it. After all, the girl intends to behave this way in order to attract more attention to herself, and the queen should say access to everything else. So what right does she have to do this? In response to this, the queen said that the girl is the sister of Archbishop Shixing, so she believes that she can do whatever she pleases. However, the queen thought to herself that when the church was completely under their influence, then it would be possible to get rid of her. The queen hoped that this day would come very soon, and she was sure that Clay was also expecting it. At this time, Archbishop Shixing asked her sister if she was provoking the queen again. In response to this, the girl said that she certainly does it. She also added that Clay and the Dragon's Blood family used to not let them live in peace, but now that he has been sent to Borak province, the girl may no longer show mercy to the queen. In response to this, Archbishop Shixing said that Kaladu had reported to him that the Borat's ladies were constantly concerned about the lack of funds in the treasury, and they even had nothing to eat. Clay was just a child. He could not be their rival. At that moment, a servant came into the hall and reported that the lord of the province of Borak had arrived. The ram Clay Longsu arrived to congratulate the queen. Archbishop Shixing was surprised that the boy had returned. One of the knights said that the boy had brought with him a whole army of 3,000 berserkers, and he also brought a lot of gifts that they simply cannot place in warehouses. Hearing this, the Shixing family was furious. The king thought that the boy had managed to subdue the berserkers and was frightened by this fact. Only Elijah and the queen rejoiced at such news. At that moment, Clay entered the hall. He turned to Her Majesty and said that they had not seen each other for a very long time. The boy also added that he missed his aunt incredibly and that it was time for them to expand their warehouses. Clay added that all the gifts simply did not fit, so he would be forced to hand over some of them directly into the hands of the queen. One of the gifts was an ice stone, which can only be found in the province of Borak. This stone is so gorgeous that it can be used to create jewelry. All the guests were shocked that the boy brought a whole box, because just 1 gram of such a high-grade ice stone would cost hundreds of thousands of gold coins. The boy also brought jewelry, which were gifts from all the clans that lived on the territory of Borats. Some of the decorations were handmade by representatives of the dwarf clan. Clay said he thought these ornaments would be the best way to decorate Auntie. The guests were again shocked by such a gift and did not understand how the boy managed to get something like the manual work of the dwarf clan. The boy also brought a tinder festive attire from the feathered clan. The boy said that Auntie has no equal in the possession of the element of fire, and this dress will allow the queen to shine even brighter. The queen was very pleased with such gifts. She took the dress in her hands and said that she was incredibly pleased and she would go and change right away. At this time, Princess Shixing was watching all this with envy and anger. At this time, the boy turned to Archbishop Shissen. He said Kaladu had done terrible things to Borak. He plundered the treasury and established his laws there. He also kept saying that he was a trusted person of Archbishop Shixing, and therefore the boy was here today so that they could clarify everything. Shixin thought that, apparently, Clay had been sending him all these letters on behalf of Kaladu for the past 6 months. He realized that all this was done in order to lull his vigilance and not let him suspect anything. The man admitted that it was not a bad job. At that moment, the princess ran up to the tax inspector and kicked him in the face. She yelled at him and told Baron Clay that he dared not bring uninvited people to the king, and even more so to such a celebration, so he also allowed himself to be late, which is simply unbearable. In response to this, the boy calmly said that he needed to navigate his family's affairs, so it took some time. In response to this, the girl shouted that this was nonsense, because the boy had to come to greet his majesty first. The girl asked the boy about what the royal family means to him. Suddenly Clay smiled and said that he had completely forgotten. He needed to visit the legion of their family in order to leave their mother there, because it is extremely dangerous to bring animals of the 7th rank to the palace, and these two are also a gift to the queen. At this moment, the boy took off his mancha and 2 3-headed puppies appeared under it. The king was surprised and delighted when he saw the puppies of the beast of the 7th rank. He asked the boy if they were meant for the queen. In response to this, Clay said that to be more precise, they were intended for Her Majesty's son. The boy also added that these puppies are incredibly valuable, and he hopes that this will help to forgive him for that incident with the heir of Shixing.